The time is 9 o'clock from our studios in Banjul. Welcome to the Tuesday's edition of the Good Morning Africa program right here. And wherever you are, thank you so very much for joining us. It's, of course, always good to be here again to take you through what will be another very interesting, as ever, informative and interactive edition of the program. Whether you are in the country or beyond, thank you so very much for choosing us, as always, for being there and for the pleasure of your company from Monday to Friday. At this time, we are here to bring you all the latest happening and developments in the Gambia. And of course, today is no exception. We have another very interesting lineup to bring, of course, for you this morning, because we're going to talk about COVID-19. We're going to talk about politics, of course, but we are also going to talk about education matters this morning. So what else again? Probably you may want, but whatever it is, we are here to make sure that you are keep informed about anything, everything that happens in the Gambia. And this is what we have been doing, and we will continue to do, inshallah, with your support and, of course, contributions as always. Once again, thank you for joining us. Su ko defee mbokk ñu ngi leen di nuyuwaat bu baax, amaat mbégte beneen yoon àndaat ak yéen ci jotaay bi comme ni ñu koy defee saa su ne bu waxtu bi jotee. Xam ngeen ne dañuy faral di ànd ak yéen Monday ba Friday bu waxtu bi jotee ñëw digtal leen suñ ay xibaar, waaye tamit waxtaane lépp lu nga xamante ne mooy ay xew-xew ci biir réew mi. Loolu mu nekk lu am solo te tamit loolu la ñëw fas yéene àndaat ak yéen ci jotaay bi. Ñu gërëmaat leen bu baax ci ni ngeen di taamoo di ànd ak ñun saa su ne bu waxtu bi jotee, waaye tamit ci safo bi ak ci kóolute bi. Ñu nuyu képp ku nga xamante ne yaa ngi ànd ak ñun jamono ji, waaye tamit beral nuyu bu baax ñi nga xamante ne ñu ngi tëdd ci hôpital yi wala ci kër yi. Xam ngeen ne ñu ngi ci jamono Covid, mbas mi mu ngi ci réew mi di def ay jafe-jafe yu mag ci réew mi. Ñu ñaanal ñëpp jàmm, ñaanal yàlla bu baax ba ñi nga xamante ne ñu ngi feebar, yàlla delloo leen seen sago, seen wérgu yaram, ñu mun a dellusiwaay seen ay soxla liggantegu bu baax a baax. Leneen tamit fi nga xamante ne foog ñu nuyu leen comme ni ñu koy waxee saa su ne mooy ñu nekk ci kaso bi, ñu ñaanal leen jàmm bu baax, waaye tamit beral ñu ñi nga xamante ne ñu ngi ci Mile 2 Central Prisons, ñoom tamit ñu ngi leen di nuyu te tamit di leen ziar, di leen ñaanal jàmm bu baax a baax. Di ñaan yàlla rek comme ni ñu koy waxee saa su ne nattu bi nga xamante ne yàlla teg na ko seen kaw mu génnee ko, ndax moom rek moo ko mun, tamit mu aar leen bu baax a baax, ñu bañ faa delluwaat, ñu delluwaat seen njaboot ci nu mu gën a gaawee. Ñu ngi leen di nuyu bu baax a baax beneen yoon. Su ko defee gannaaw nuyoo bi ak dalal bi, we go straight to our full story this morning. And of course, we would start with matters of COVID-19, and we're talking about the vaccines this time around, because the long-awaited additional supply of the AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine has finally arrived in the Gambia following the vaccine shortage in the country. The French government donated 38,400 doses of the vaccines to the Gambia on Sunday, and Ndesise witnessed the arrival of the vaccines, and she now tells us more of that in this report.
The long delay in the shipment of an additional supply of the AstraZeneca vaccine in the Gambia has made the Johnson & Johnson vaccine the latest choice in the country, many of whom have passed the 12-week interval between the first and second dose of the AstraZeneca have been waiting for additional supply of the vaccine. But thanks to the French government, those who took the first jab of the AstraZeneca vaccine can now be fully immunized. Speaking at the Banjul International Airport, Gambia's Minister of Health, Dr. Ahmad Lamin Samate, explained what the gift means to the Gambia.
A very important step in the sense that it shows global solidarity. It shows that the partners have a lot of trust in the government of the Gambia in their handling of the COVID situation, in their handling of vaccination, and also in their handling of the healthcare delivery system in the country. So it shows global solidarity. It shows that the partners are supportive, they are enthusiastic, and together with the partners, inshallah, we'll be able to have a big impact on the handling of COVID-19 in this country.
With the emergence of poliovirus in the Gambia, Dr. Samata says officials are deployed to sensitize people about the polio vaccines to avoid public confusion about the two vaccines.
So our teams are going around. They are, doing the sensitization. They go into the communities. They have radio programs. They have television programs, and so on and so forth. And of course, with the use of your own media, to get the information to the people.
The French consul Chabal Al Haji says The donation is part of the French government's efforts in helping the less privileged countries with enough vaccines. Mr. El Haj urged the Gambia government to put the donated vaccines into proper use.
French government has been pushing, and it's gonna probably over 120 million vaccines to lesser countries that can afford the vaccine. So this is one of the lots that has arrived, and it's coming also at the right time because of as Madame Tushiko said, that there's a need for second vaccination.
The World Health Organization country representative, Dr. Desta Tirune, encouraged people to be immunized in fighting the pandemic.
The vaccines have side effects, but these side effects usually are minor. These are like headache, a fever that can go off within 2 days or so. So this is not a big issue. But rarely also there could be severe illness, side effects. Those should be reported to the health authorities. Otherwise, largely the vaccine is safe for the population, and I encourage all people who are not vaccinated to come out and get the vaccines as soon as possible.
The donation will help the country to achieve its target, as over 18,000 Gambians are expected to benefit from this supply. France has donated more than 2.6 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine to 17 countries. And by the end of this month, a total of 28 countries are expected to receive more than 5.7 million doses through this mechanism. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Daisy.
Of course, thank you very much, Ndesisa, reporting that she was at the Banjul International Airport to witness the arrival of the AstraZeneca vaccine. It's the additional, vaccine. You all know we had the first shipment here, but eventually, somewhere along the line, there was shortage of the vaccines that had triggered some concerns among people who have already took the first jab. But finally, over 38,000 of the vaccines are now again in the country. So that's a good development, and of course we hope that the vaccinations of those people who have took the first jab would now have the opportunity to take their second jab anytime soon. We stand with COVID-19 matters, and of course we're going to have an extensive discussions on its impact, as we have been doing for the past week, and on different issues or sectors in the country. We all know COVID has affected almost everything, and as we live in this present day or moment. Now, as part of the mobilization media campaign against COVID-19 on human rights, courtesy of a Canadian-based organization called Journalists for Human Rights, in partnership with Gambian journalists, have extensively produced dozens of news reports on devastating impact of the pandemic in the Gambia. For an extension on, of course, such initiative, we are joined live in the studio to discuss more on it by the Executive Director of the Gambia Organization for the Visually Inspired, that's GOVI, Mr. Lamin Koli, to talk to us on the impact of COVID-19 on disability and human rights. Mr. Koli, good morning, and thank you so very much for joining us this morning, and we are very much excited to have you here to talk about the impact of COVID-19.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me to this very important platform. My sincere gratitude to the entire journalists who have been covering a lot of issues about disabilities over the past years. First, my name is Lamin Koli, and I'm the Executive Director of the Gambia Organization of the Visually Impaired, GOVI, which is a charity organization with the aim of empowering visually impaired children and adults all over the country. Yes.
Fantastic, and that's great. And we're equally going to continue the work that you have just mentioned. Journalists has been doing to support persons with disability in their activities and all that. Now we're here to talk about the impact of COVID, and of course on disability and human rights. But first, tell us about the situation. How did you manage? What was the experience like that you have went through during the COVID-19 pandemic?
Okay. Since the outbreak of this coronavirus, which is COVID-19, to a larger extent, it has impacted negatively to the lives of persons with disabilities in this country.
Yeah.
Looking at the situations, you will find out that there was a lockdown.
Indeed.
So during that period, a lot of visually impaired people who surely depend on begging for living have some economical, challenges.
Sure.
Because the public places were shut down, and then
they were asked to stay at home.
Stay at home.
Yeah.
So and the mosques even and these worship places were all locked. So it was very stressful to them at that moment.
Indeed.
When you also come to look at the information aspect, actually a lot of information have been shared with regards to the prevention and all issues regarding the COVID-19. But if you look at the accessibility of information for disabled people in general, is a problem. Because you don't have the information in braille or audio formats, or you don't have them in large prints where visually impaired people can access them, and then you don't also have like the publications that are made in the TV. You don't have sign language interpreters for those who are hard of hearing. So information was also a challenge during this period. And then after that, you also have accessing health services. A lot of health centers, facilities were also, shut down or locked. So you'll see that there are a lot of disabled people who are on medications. So it really affected a number of them when it comes to accessing those services during those periods.
Yeah, of course, it appears, like you said, you have went through a lot of challenges during this time, as you just mentioned. Now, maybe at this point, we might bring the issue of human rights here. Do you think at some point, considering the way and manner some of these regulations were imposed upon us, and especially on the people of disabled people, do you think their rights were somehow violated or were not considered in the process?
Also, to some extent, yes, their rights are violated. There should be policies that would protect the rights and dignity of persons with disability. So those policies are lacking in this country. If you look at the COVID response strategy that was developed by the National Disaster Management Agency, during the process, disabled people were not involved. We were not consulted. So if you look at the policy, you will find out that there is a big gap between disabled people and the services that they are providing.
Okay.
So it means the strategy is not inclusive. So there our rights are, violated, not respected. Consultation in general is a problem for disabled people. We are not consulted. Yes.
And these are things that I think need to be looked at, and if not addressed in this country. And how do you feel about that, especially you being somebody who's responsible for the welfare of people with or persons with disability in the country?
Generally, we feel we are discriminated. We feel our issues are not valued. We feel the government or the authorities are not adhering to the Sustainable Development Goal, which is saying that no one is left behind. So if you look at this, generally the situation of persons with disabilities is not in good, it's not as it's supposed to be. A lot of people are left behind when you come to accessibility, regards to information, economical, social. We are still left behind.
Okay. You talked about consideration and consultations earlier on when some of these measures were being, drafted or whatever. You were never consulted in the process or involved. Of course, along the line, because we are talking about the impact of COVID-19, measures were taken, and of course, there was some point, there was support that were initiated. Do you think you were rightly also considered in that process? Do you get any support from the authorities or the government per se when there were when everybody was asked to stay at home? Were you somehow considered, okay, there are people who were always out there looking for support and now they're asked to stay home? Were you considered in this process also?
Anyway, we used to hear that there are support that are granted to some people in communities, but actually at our organization's level, GOVI, we have not received any support with regards to COVID.
During the COVID period?
Yeah, during the COVID period, yes.
Oh.
Yes.
That's something else. I mean, just to remind you, if you are just joining us, we are of course talking about the impact of COVID-19, and like I said, this is part of course, the media mobilizing campaign against COVID-19 human rights, courtesy of a Canadian-based organization called Journalists for Human Rights, in partnership with Gambian journalists like us who have done an excellent job of during this period, and extensively produced dozens of news reports on the devastating impact of the pandemic in the country. And it is for that reason why we are also today discussing with the executive director of the Gambia organization for the visually inspired, that's GOVI, Mr. Lamin Colley, to tell us more about the hardship, the impact COVID-19 had on the on disability, and of course and their rights as well aspect. Now, before we move on to probably what can we learn from what have happened, the experience, to avoid some of the things that you have went through to happen again, do you think the authorities or the government could have done better in managing the situation, and considering that there are people there are persons with disability that need to be considered somehow?
Yes, I think if things were properly done during the initial stage, meaning, the Gambia is a diverse country with diverse people. So when such a strategy is being developed to address a situation like this, I think there should be consultation with at least the DPOs, the women groups, the youth groups. So you don't need to bring all of them together, but you can pick out you say a number from each group and call them to have to involve them in the process of developing that strategy. You see that at the end, the strategy will be a strategy that will be inclusive of all persons, with regards of your disability or not. Everyone will be on board. But when someone just sit at the corner, 2 or 3 people saying they are going to develop strategies, it's very difficult for them to remember some people.
Now, let me ask you this. You as the executive director of GOVI, do you at any point during the lockdown receive complaints or from your members that they were going through some hardships, some economic challenges, and something need to be done, and probably you feel the pressure was on and they have no one to contact than you to tell you some of the situation that they were going through?
On a daily basis during the period, we receive calls every day from members across the country, from visually impaired people, requesting for support. The only support that we received was is from an NGO, and that NGO, would not like its name to be published,
to be mentioned,
but it was a very huge support. Yes, where at least each visually impaired person across the country receive an amount of something that is not less than $15,000.
Wow.
So this has, if government also do the same, other partners also do the same, it would have minimized the negative impact.
Yeah, certainly. Oh, that was a good support, and of course, but I was going to ask whether you receive any support, but it's good that you have mentioned it yourself, that it was the only support that you have received. Now, moving on and looking ahead, the COVID is still around. Yes, people are moving about their businesses. Some of the regulations are now eased, but COVID is here. In terms of vaccines accessibility, and also are you supported also? Are there measures that are put in place to help people, that of course who are visually impaired can have access to the vaccines, during this COVID period?
I know having access to the vaccines is not a problem, because there are health posts in almost every village or community across the country, and it's free of charge. But what is left is the information. Okay. People still lack, the appropriate information. Okay. So this has, it has made a lot of people not to be willing to take the vaccination, because there are a lot of negative things said about the vaccination. People are not, some people are not satisfied with the vaccination, and they are fear. There's this fear amongst the people.
Yeah, indeed.
Yes. So I think there should be sufficient information with regards to the vaccination, so that this will encourage everybody, including visually impaired people, to be vaccinated. Yeah.
Yes. All right, great. Now moving on again, what do you think we could learn from this as a country, as a people? Of course, as someone who is heading, of course, certain group and people who sometimes face challenges in societies and in their own ways, and of course you are among the contact persons when there are things that they want to address. What do you think the government can do better, can do more in helping persons with this disability, disabled persons, rather, I should say, in this country?
I think, like I said, authorities should always remember that the Gambia is a diverse country. Yeah. Secondly, we should also remember that there is nothing for us without us. Yeah. So meaning there's nothing for disabled people when there are no persons with disabilities. Absolutely. So as long as there are persons with disabilities, we should be consulted. So we should always the government should always remember that there are persons with disabilities. The government should always remember that their issues cannot be addressed without being consulting them. Because who feels it knows it better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it is very difficult to step in somebody's shoes, who is feeling a different, a different way from you. Like, if I'm feeling like I have a disability, I have an impairment, this guy is not feeling that way. So it is very difficult for him to speak on my behalf, because he don't know what I'm feeling, he don't know what my needs are. So there should be this consultation. Yeah.
And involve you also in the
process.
In the process. I think that's also very, very important.
Yeah, since the the initial stage.
Yeah. Because that's quite very, very important. That the equally very, very important things that need to be looked at as far as these issues are concerned. Like I said, COVID is still here, and yes, some of the regulations are now eased. And do you feel now more comfortable at this situation as we are? Yes, and vaccines are around, and people are going out to take the vaccine. But of course, like you say, you complain, lack of sufficient information in helping some of your people to be convinced enough to go and take the vaccines. But one may want to believe now the situation is much better as we speak, compared to a few months ago, when most of us were asked to stay at home.
Yeah, actually it's quite different now. Okay. At first, when COVID was just new, people don't know about COVID. All what we used to think is, when COVID comes, it's going to kill everyone.
Yeah, panic was
Exactly.
everywhere. Yeah.
So, we realized that that was not the case, that COVID is just like any other flu or so.
Yeah.
Just that you don't need to be a person who has some health complications. So if you need healthy and abide by the WHO guidelines,
Yeah.
I think you have the bigger at least prevention. It's like you can be prevented with those guidelines. Yes.
Okay, before I ask you to give a general message, perhaps to the Gambian people, to the government, but specifically to the Ministry of Health, who are responsible of health matters in this country, and they are also managing the issues of COVID-19, the vaccines and all that. You complained lack of sufficient communication. What message would you send to the minister out there with regards to that area of communication, of line of communication, for them to improve in helping some of your members to know, as to the way and manner or what they should do to access to the vaccines? Especially, we are encouraging everyone to get vaccinated against the pandemic.
I think what the ministry have to understand that there are a lot of people who are still left behind. So efforts should be made to ensure that those people who are left behind at least will be on board. So our issues should not be forgotten. Yeah. We should always be consulted and involved in national building, because we have people who can make good decisions. Yeah. We have people who can bring in very good ideas when it comes to the development of the country. So we also have a very big role to play. So we should not be forgotten. I would like to also seize this opportunity to thank the authorities anyway for starting with our line ministry, going down to the National Assembly members, for passing our National Disability Bill, and to also thank the head of state for His Excellency Dr. Adama Barrow for ascending to our National Disability Bill.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and how do you feel about that? I was going to ask that about that before we close. I think there's another, step in laudable development, as you were just trying to thank some of the people that you think played a pivotal role in helping you to help to make sure that the bill has been passed.
Yeah, including all the CSOs, the civil society organizations and NGOs who has also at least contributed directly or indirectly to during the process. It's a very big news for the disabled community. Yeah. We hope at least we have an act now, but our challenge will be the implementation.
Yeah, I was going to ask you,
So
what are you expecting? What do you look forward to now the bill has been passed in terms of your well-being considerations as we move on as a country? It has been a long wait, for the bill to be passed, but eventually it has been passed now. So what are your expectations? What do you look forward to see?
I know that all the articles in the bill cannot be implemented as soon as possible, but there are some, at least, which does not require cost. For example, when you come to employment issues, when you come to our inclusion in decision making, and some education. So those are just formalities. So they need to be formalized and just be taken on board. Yeah. So it does not require a budget or what. Unlike when you come to access to buildings and public areas, maybe those ones will be till later. But the urgent ones could be the access to education and the like, justice. Those are just to make sure that people with disabilities also have access to those services. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. And I think that's very important because we talked about the impact of COVID on persons with disability, and of course, like you said, some of your rights were violated. And talking about justice, that's equally very, very important. And Mr. Colley, thank you very much for coming. Finally, what message would you send out to the authorities and to your members as well?
To say that we are all Gambians, and then we are also proud, to be contributing to the social and economic development of the country. So we don't, need to be left behind, as the Sustainable Development Goal says. State that everyone, no one should be left behind.
Certainly.
So at least we should always, be on board. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so very much once again. And of course, we will hopefully bring you back in another day to talk about the general aspect of your activities and operations in the country, and looking at the general situation of persons with disability in the country as well. But for today, we were talking about the impact on COVID-19 on persons with disability, and of course on human rights as well. And helping us to understand that was the executive director of the Gambia Organization for Visual Inspired Government, Mr. Lamin Colley. Once again, thank you so very much for coming. All right, and we would move on now, and like I said, we will hopefully get him back some other time and talk on something different. We would do now security matters of matters of the police, because the Gambia Police Force, with support from the United Nations Development Program (UNDP), kickstarted a 15-day capacity building program for police prosecutors on Monday. The training is geared towards enhancing police capacities in the areas of prosecution and related matters. Now has more details of that in this report.
The 15-day training is mainly for 60 police prosecutors from all parts of the country, which will be divided into 3 groups. The training, which is supported by the UNDP, will be centered on different skills in prosecution and legal matters. Speaking at the opening ceremony, Siaka Sonko, a senior police officer, urges the officers to take the training seriously so as to give feedback after the training.
The training, if you take it seriously and incorporate it with your daily duties, will help you to be better prosecutors and also understand the pitfalls, as I am sure the resource persons will point out to you during any proceedings. We would like to be able to have you to report back to us about what happened at the end of the day. Let it not be a training program you go through and then you go away. We would like to have feedback from you.
Abdul Toure from the UNDP says the workshop will include the transformation of the police digital system through a development of a mobile data collect app.
This training will strengthen capacities of prosecutors to take up the challenge. In addition, this will address the issue of case backlog, which has been a persistent problem in the judicial sector. Mr. Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this training, including support towards community policing initiative, the transformation of the police to a digital system through the development of a mobile data collect app, among several other initiatives, are all efforts to have the Gambia Police Force to be more effective, transparent, and accountable.
Commissioner of Police Prosecutor Abdoulaye Sane welcomes the initiative and highlights the importance of the training to his prosecutors.
What we are doing, this training is going to be very important, because nowadays you have been seeing that there is no case that will be mentioned before the court without the case being represented by a counsel. So the training is very, very important for my police prosecutors, because legally they have to know. If you don't know, it will be very difficult for you to fight your cases in court. So that's why this training is timely, is good, and it will very definitely improve the skills of my prosecutors in terms of challenging cases before the court.
The training is expected to provide the officers with extensive knowledge and to share experiences both substantive and procedural. In January this year, a young women-led organization called Think Young Women trained some police officers together with state prosecutors with regards to sexual violence cases. Amendao for iAfrica News.
All right, thank you very much there. The Gambia Police Force starting a capacity building program for, of course, the Gambia Police Force, as you have just, seen in that report there filed in by Amindao. Of course, it's a 15-day capacity building program for the Gambia Police Force, supported by the United Nations Development Program, UNDP. In enhancing police capabilities in the areas of prosecution and related matters. And that is very, very important as we, move on as a country. So in every sector, people need to be improved, their standard need to be improved, and capacity building is very, very crucial in whatever we do in life. So su ko defee rek mbokk yi comme ni ngeen ko gisee noonu wàllum police bi ñoom tamit ñoom ñoo commencé li nga xamante ne mooy ndaje bu am solo wala lelu li aju ci wàllum seen sa taxawaay ci wàllum atte ak ay yeneen mbir ñu am jàppale nag bu jógee ko ci United Nation Development Programme UNDP ñu jàppale police bi tàggat leen ci yu mel noonu loolu dafa am solo bu baax a baax ñu fàttali rek ne yeneen ngi ànd ak Good Morning Africa programme bi fii ci Africa TV fi ngeen mënta nekk ñu ngi leen di gërëm bu baax ci ni ngeen di ànd ak ñun saa su ne. Getting to now, we want to talk about the University of the Gambia matters. Of course, that is the University of the Gambia Faculty and Staff Association are our guest this morning. We want to talk about their activities. We want to talk about their operation and some of the things that they do, but equally, you remember they were demanding something from the government. They have some demands that they were requesting from the government that led to the process that they had some moments ago. But eventually, consultations were done, and they stopped the strike. The sit-down strike, but here we want to discuss about that in this program, and I am very much happy to say I am being joined in the studio by the Vice President of the association, that is Mr. Ensa Toure, and of course the Secretary General also is here, Yoron Jai. They will help us understand many things that probably you want to know about the things that they do, and the suspended sit-down strike, because I want to believe, it might come back again maybe, but they will tell us more about it. But let me bring on the Vice President now. Mr. Vice President, good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you so very much for joining us. I'll just allow you to say hi to our viewers.
Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Ensa Toure.
I'm the Vice President of the University of the Gambia Faculty Staff Association.
Yes.
And then we all know that the university is the only public university that we have.
Yeah.
And we believe that it's our collective responsibility to ensure that there is a standard, and that standard has to be within the framework of the structural standard. Yeah. That is from both administrative and that of academic. Yeah. That's why our intervention was necessary to ensure that we actually struggle to ensure that everything that was actually demanded is actually given to us.
All right. Yeah. We will get to the details on the updates on demands and timelines for the meeting of the University of the Gambia and all that. But let's bring on the Secretary General now, Yoro. Yoro, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us also. And I would also allow you to say hi to our viewers.
Thank you, Amadou, for inviting us today to your Good Morning Africa show. We're very happy to be here to update the public and as well update the stakeholders of the university about some of the demands that we made recently, and also discuss about some of the pending ones and the ones that are not yet implemented, and how do we go about it. So I'm sure it's going to be really comprehensive and interesting.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Hero. He's the Secretary General. I know he would tell. He was involved because he was doing more of the correspondence, and the role Secretary Generals do or have in associations. But of course, we have the list of demands here. But before we get to the demands, probably for the first time somebody might be watching and would want to know a bit about the University of the Gambia Faculty Staff Association. And the Vice President is here. He will help us understand. Tell us a bit about the association and some of the things that you have been doing or you are focused on.
If you understand that historically, University of the Gambia, since the starting inception of the university, in the Constitution or in the University of the Gambia Act, it is actually highlighted the need to establish University of the Gambia Staff Association. Associations are constitutionally mandated establishment to ensure that there is a structural process to ensure democratic dispensation within the framework of the governance of the university. Because if you understand that university is just like a micro-state. So, and micro-state, in this, it constitutes some organs, that are administrative organs. So each of these organs have a constitutional role to play. So once you don't have a constraining force to ensure check and balance the system, either the order structure or the order group or organ could actually monopolize or hegemonize the governance of the university, and that may affect the entire aspiration of the university in terms of production of knowledge. So that was why we deem it necessary to create, because we don't believe that those who are given the helm of management to manage the University of the Gambia can do everything. So that's why we understand that we also, who are working, we have to be protected. And that's why in 2015, we actually proposed to revive the University of the Gambia Staff Association to ensure security for every person, and also to constrain also unnecessary power, unnecessary power exertion by interest group or individuals that actually necessitated the emergence of the University of the Gambia Staff Union. And it became very, very successful. And it's also allayed fears of most of the University of the Gambia staff. So because we understand that people are managing, and university also need to be autonomous. Autonomous in this, it should not depend on any other institutional control, because we are the people building capacity for the state, and we supply manpower to the state. So if we have external force or external manipulation to control, it may affect the production of knowledge, but there will be no condition viable for that.
All right, that's great. Now, it's good that you tell us more about the association, some of the positions and the essence of having such an association at the University of the Gambia, which is very, very important. Now, recently, of course, you made headlines, in the country when this strike, came up. It was barely a few days or weeks before exams were to hold or to take place. Now, let's talk about the demands. I know I have few of them here, or all the demands, but we cannot discuss everything. But some of the demands is that the interim of the governing council be dissolved and be replaced with a substantive governing council. That's one. Two, we have a joint search committee for the governing council and the Senate. The three is the Minister of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology, areas to the UTG be paid in full. And four, which I'll step there for now, is an independent investigation of the UTG salary scales. So these are some of the demands that you were requesting. But for one reason or the other, these were never respected at some point, and you started a sit-down strike. Why? What went wrong? What happened? What made you to get to that level?
Let's look at the first point. You talk about the interim council.
Yes.
Gambia went to political change. There was a political change in 2016. And the expectation within the framework of that change was to ensure, first of all, structural change or institutional change or transformation. The Higher Education Ministry and the minister supposed to be the leading giant or proponent of the reform. But the ministry has not been able to, and has not demonstrated any commitment or to position itself towards the pathway of reform and change.
And this is because?
Because of strategic manipulations and control for group interests or individual interests. First of all, an interim council. University council is very, very important because they regulate the administrative or governance affairs of the university. And in the Constitution of the Gambia or University of the Gambia Act, an interim council should not exceed 1 year in its assumption of responsibility. But the Ministry of Higher Education maintained the interim council for almost more than 4 years. Why? Because the Constitution said the interim council, everything was actually highlighted, how the mode of selection and their functions. Maintaining that was strategic, which we need to understand, because one, whenever they are selected or they were elected according to the constitutional framework, they will derive their powers from the constitution without any individual influence. But Higher Education Ministry maintained this interim council purposely to strategically control the University of the Gambia and to ensure they constrain its autonomous position. So whatever has to be endorsed, those councils have to actually owe their mandate to the minister and the ministry, not to the service as it is stipulated in the constitution.
Now talking about the interim governing council, did the minister or ministry forwarded any reason for extending their time in office?
There was no reason forwarded, simply because he has a strategic plan, and that strategic plan was to use the weakening structure like the council in order to actually infiltrate or penetrate the university in terms of control.
You having that in mind, did you contact it or try to contact
the ministry? That was because for 4 years, all the institutions have gone, most of the institutions after political change, they've gone through reform, and this is higher education. Yeah. It is not local government. They're supposed to be people with capacity necessary to lead that reform process. But they did not do that. And why? Interim council. So you understand what I mean? Yeah. And most of the interim council, they were actually giving their sitting allowance or maybe monthly pay. Therefore, since they were not legitimate in their assumption of the position, they will not owe their mandate to whatever, but to the minister who positioned them there. And minister was doing everything to control the university. So that is why we said that it was a strategic manipulation to maintain, because the minister or the ministry actually had some interest, and that's why we need to structurally dismantle that to ensure that there is a legitimate body that will actually generate the condition to actually create the autonomous existence of the university.
Okay, let me bring on the Secretary General now. Based on the reasons he forwarded and the position of the Minister or the Ministry of Higher Education with regards to the Governing Council, and on your demand, you are the Secretary General, you are doing the correspondence. What is the situation as we speak? I know negotiations have been done, we'll get to that, but what is the latest with regards to some of the demands or the demands that you made for the council or the governing council to be dissolved?
Yeah, excuse me. Thank you, Amadou.
Yeah.
As we see, we have some list of demands.
Yeah.
And these demands were advanced and were communicated. We had engagements with the Office of the President.
Yeah.
That was before I even joined as an executive member.
Yeah.
A series of engagements were also done with the National Assembly Select Committee for Education.
Sure.
And also the Ministry of Higher Education on numerous occasions, engagements were done. So all these listed demands are not new. There are things that have been here.
For how long you have been demanding these things?
Some of them come over time, but some are new, particularly the interim governing council.
Yeah.
And my vice president is very right about having an interim governing council indefinite, without expiration, because they've been here and we've seen that definitely they've served their term, and no one would say that they haven't done anything. That will be unfair. But what we realize is we need a substantive governing council, and then we demanded that. And one of the reasons why we suspended the strike was because we had a stakeholders meeting where the Secretary General was present and he was chairing the meeting. We have representative from the IG.
The Secretary General, the head of civil service, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Representative from the IG for security reason.
Okay.
The student body were there. The chairman of the National Assembly and Select Committee was there, Honorable Sidia Jata.
Yeah.
And then you have the board members and some senior management of the university.
Yeah.
We had a round table meeting. It was not easy.
Yeah.
we discussed and we agreed on points. And one of the key points was the dissolution of the governing council. So until now, we haven't had any information about who the new governing council members are. There is nothing that is communicated to us because we made this demand. At least from time to time, we should have been updated on the process of composing a new governing council. And this is one of the things that were agreed upon, and we suspended the strike. So we want to tell the stakeholders that until these demands are met, we are not suspending the strike. And by September, we are not even beginning the next semester. Because the governing council is the supreme body that regulates the university. It's the highest body. So you cannot have a governing council or members of the governing council that do not even know how universities are run.
Yeah, and I was going to ask also maybe at this point, do you feel that the current governing council is being managed or being controlled by the minister or the Ministry of Higher Education?
Well, as I know, right now there is no governing council. And the timeline for the composition of the governing council, because in our discussion we said 3 weeks. We said a week because it's very easy. We all live in the Gambia, and we know that there are a pool of competent people that can add value to the university by serving in the governing council. Amadou, let us be very clear that we do not even need a governing council, but we need a governing council that is going to add value to the production of knowledge.
Okay, but one thing before we move on, if you said currently you don't have, that meaning the governing council that was there before has been dissolved?
Yes.
That you know?
Yes.
So now, do you have any knowledge or information, or you do not know anything about whether there's already a process of, structuring or bringing another new governing council?
Yeah, as I was saying, the timeline for the composition of governing council was 26th of July. 2021.
That was what was agreed.
In our discussion, we said a week. We said it cannot take 2 or 3 weeks because we know that there are pool of competent Gambians that can sacrifice and serve in the composition of the governing council and add value to the university, because that's what we want. We are not asking the former governing council to be dissolved and get another governing council. No, we are saying we want a governing council that will add value to the university. We need members of the governing council that can help the university raise funds, that are okay with policies. You understand, but until now, today is what, 23rd or 24th?
Yes,
24th.
Yeah.
So the timeline has passed, and there is no formal communication to advance the reason why this thing was not met.
And this is one of your demands?
This is one of the most important demands.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We will move on to the next one. I know you will...
No, it's all right.
Yeah, we will move on to the next one now. Joint Research Committee for the Governing Council and Senate. Mr. Vice President again. What was why this demand also was on part of the list?
Yeah, but because of when the previous one was constituted, that committee, and then it was unfairly composed. The non-legitimate persons were included, and the University Staff Association became suspicious of their presence in that committee. And based on that, our president actually had to tender his resignation until when that person was completely put it out. Because we need to have a kind of search committee with integrity. The search committee was actually set up to look into the possibility of advertising the position of the Vice Chancellor. And normally what we need to understand, there'll be a problem if you look at the context now again. Because the search committee was established, and the University of the Gambia, or the Governing Council or the Ministry, the position of the Vice Chancellor has to be advertised 1 year before the expiry date of the incumbent. The Minister and the Ministry of Higher Education outrightly or deliberately neglected this thing because they have the minister what had an agenda to perpetuate or impose his own vice chancellor in order to enhance his personal hegemony over the university, running of the university.
But Mr. Vice President, what are the reasons if you are saying
because number one, if the vice chancellor's position had to be, according to the constitution, advertised 1 year before the expiry date of the incumbent, and they refused to do that, no consultation or whatever was made, until in the middle of the year, they actually asked this vice chancellor that his contract will never be renewed. And now they came up with advertisement. Not so, for 6 weeks, you know that a vice chancellor is an executive and at the same time an academic personality. And you can't actually just establish a university and actually appoint a vice chancellor who does not have knowledge sophistication, because in running of the university leadership, it requires sophistication. That's why we say in the Gambia today, we are at the mercy of international war, and we are weak economically, politically. So what we need some persons with sophistication, especially those who are actually world-acclaimed scholars to this university, in order to restore order. But if individuals influence tend to generate a condition to perpetuate a weak personality, they will still sustain the weakening structure of the governance of the University of Gambia, and that will abet our life for it. It will never be.
If you said,
because you have to understand, if actually you are a minister with you are educated and intellectual, the Constitution said the office of the vice chancellor supposed to be advertised 1 year before the expiry date, and you deliberately neglected it because you have an agenda, for example. You understand what I mean? You understand? Because when you advertise 1 year, so many competent persons will apply. And competent one, or the most competent one, will be identified, recommended for the appointment. So the strategy was to avert the situation or constrain that. I don't know, you look at the strategic manipulations, institutionally or structurally. You understand what I mean here? And then now, if that is advertised, for example, if you are to appoint another vice chancellor, we must make sure that there is smooth transition in terms of university government. If the incumbent right now, the incumbent should not leave until when a substantive is appointed. There should not be any acting vice chancellor now, because we witnessed a lot, we experienced a lot. We had bad experience in terms of imposition of acting vice chancellors in this university. That disruption, we don't want that. So we will not accept any acting vice chancellor. We have to make sure that there is smooth transition from the incumbent to the substantive. A new substantive vice chancellor to be appointed.
So this is what you...
This is where we are talking about structural manipulation. That's why I say higher educational ministry didn't take any necessary pathway towards instituting a reform after political change.
Okay. Interesting. Yes, SG, let me come back to you. Listening to the Vice President, he said some very interesting points here with regards to the issue of the vice chancellor. Of course, I know we did get to that, but it's good that we have brought that issue. I was going to go to the next demand, which is the areas to the UDT, of course, to be paid in full. But in the issue of the Vice Chancellor, he mentioned, of course, why do you think the minister is acting this way? I mean, are you sensing probably or think that he might have somebody he has in mind, or he want to handpick somebody to get him the position, or what?
Well, Amadou, everything we're saying here, it was a rumor that the ministry was trying to get a vice chancellor from Malaysia.
Okay.
So when we had this, we said, no, that's not fair, because the Act says that 3 candidates should be presented to the president at his capacity as the chancellor, because the president is the chancellor of the university. 3 candidates should be presented to him, and he appoints one in consultation with the ministry or the minister. So when this rumor was being circulated, we said, look, we don't just want to sit and wait until things happen. Let's make our engagement. But through the process of selecting members of the search committee, so we realized that, look, there are things that are really not clear. Okay, so but to cut the story short, is to cut the story short, we expected as well that the governing council will act in accordance with the Higher Education Act, Tertiary and Higher Education Act, which says the position should be advertised, and even the university bylaws. So what we realized is, when we had our stakeholders meeting, it was said that before or on the 26th of July, a new council would be constituted. There we will have 2 months to advertise the positions, and then get a new vice chancellor. But that has been delayed. And we are also getting rumor that, let it be very clear, this program is live. We are getting rumor that the ministry wants to get us an acting vice chancellor. We are not going to settle to that. We are not going to settle to any acting vice chancellor. If the council or the ministry fail in their part to do the right thing, that's not our problem. But the staff association is saying that we are not going to accept any acting vice chancellor. Let the position be advertised fairly and transparent.
Okay, we would know now that you said you are not going to accept, but what would you do with regards to that? We have about a few minutes to do these things. We know these are very interesting things, and I wish we had any time to go almost on all the points. But just lastly, on one of the points that I want us to discuss, because these are monetary issues, and money, sometimes are very sensitive, then before we have a general, finally to wrap up. But on the areas, of course, partly some of the monies have been paid, I understand, according to what I have before me here. Yes, tell us a bit about that also. You had, over 100 million areas before, which I think, need to be, were settled. So what happened? Help us understand about these areas also.
It was like a scholarship that was issued to students by the Ministry of Higher Education, and those scholarships were just based on documents, and they never paid. So the areas accumulated over time, and this accumulation affected us because UTG had a lot of problems in terms of capacity and equipment and office space. So we had engagements, and thanks to everyone that these areas are settled, and if the money comes into the university, we'll ensure that we use it to fix some of our immediate needs.
Because when this strike came up, maybe some of the people that might not know might think that you were just asking for a lot of money, you want to have more money here and there, but eventually it's good that these were areas and you were demanding for that. We have other demands that are here, but like I said, due to time, we would not be able to discuss everything. But now, on a final note, Mr. Vice President, here we are in a situation, like you said, some of these demands are not met yet. So what is your position now as we move on? You said you are not going to accept an acting vice chancellor. The issue of the interim committee is not yet resolved as well. Maybe there's a positive development on the issue of the areas. So what is the position of the Faculty and Staff Association of the University of the Gambia with regards to your demands? What do you intend to do? He just gave us that.
The demand, our strike is a suspended strike. So which means that we are still waiting for all these resolutions to be made. Once they are implemented, we just call it off. If they are not implemented, we still continue to call our members and decide at the Congress. But we have to understand one thing we need to understand, because university is being manipulated. You understand? And the disorganized condition of the university is influenced by external actor.
Manipulated by who?
By an external actor. You see, we were asked to actually introduced an engineering program at the University of the Gambia to build technical capacity for the people of this country. So at that point in time, the minister even, that is the ministry, instructed the university to actually introduce that. But after when they realized that, the World Bank was actually coming in, the intervention of World Bank to create a center for excellence for technical knowledge, education in this country. Because of World Bank is involved and money is involved, this ministry avoided the University of the Gambia, came up with a new proposition or new agenda to transform GTTI into university, so that they could create a kind of another weakening structure where they will be able to perpetuate to get access to the funding from the World Bank. And our engineering there is already in a very, very precarious situation, our engineering program. So what we are telling you here, if our conditions and demands and resolutions, I don't believe that we are still going to call off, but we still continue to actually engage our members at the Congress.
Yeah, that's fine. Now you're waiting for...
We'll not go back to class. Because number one, it is not our responsibility to advertise the position of the Vice Chancellor. It's not, it is the responsibility. They evaded their responsibility outrightly for tactical reasons known to them. And we are saying that once this condition and these demands are not met, our staffs will still continue to sit down.
Would you be ready for another negotiation or discussion about...
We are open to negotiation. Because we want, this is a kind of a reform. And we understand that government provided every condition for all the stakeholders to use their competence and knowledge to ensure strategic reform for this country, to ensure standard. So if the line of ministry is not, it is left to government to judge that ministry. But we are saying that once they are not, we are going back. We are not going back to teach.
Okay. Finally, as the Vice President, are you surprised or disappointed that you are not, you were never contacted since you had the discussion or the agreement that you can now suspend, for the meantime, go back to your activities and suspend the strike?
No, we have been in constant consultation with the stakeholders, especially those who were involved in the resolutions and the reconciliation or whatever in solving the problem. But we thank them because they demonstrated a kind of competence in the way they resolved, especially the Secretary General. The Secretary General actually demonstrated maturity in the way, and especially Sidia Jatta play a key role in that, even in enhancing the payment of this fund. Because Sidia is a witness, he's a man of knowledge and intellect. He understand the importance of higher education in the transformation of a nation state. And this is what actually affects us in Africa, and we need to believe that any person who wants to constrain that, I think we need to actually eliminate the person.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Secretary General, Jaro, finally, on a final note, you did the correspondence and the opposition, like the Vice President has said, is very clear. So what are you demanding, or what do you want to hear from the people that are involved in making sure that maybe when the semester starts, everything would go as usual? Because I know students would be worried, like they were when the exams were about to take place and you decided to go on strike. So here again, you are more or less in the same situation. For here again, September, what do you want the authorities to do to make sure that solutions or some of your demands, if not all, would be made to avoid you coming back or holding another strike again?
Yeah, it's very funny that when we everything that we are doing is as a result of a resolution that was reached in a Congress. It was it's very interesting that people have been calling us rebel and all these things, that we are not fair to the students and giving us all accusation. But who would stand today and repeat the same statement of yesterday that we are rebel when we bring the university $150 million? We fought for all the areas to be paid. Are we rebels, or are we in for the interest of the students and the entire university? And I was troubled, and when I came back, I was briefed that the Ministry of Higher Education wrote to the university and banned them from traveling.
Yeah, this is something that we needed to discuss, but time
yeah,
didn't allow us.
It's just within demand.
The demands as well.
Okay, because when we had a meeting with the minister at the Ministry of Higher Education, and he bluntly told us that the university do not have the capacity to run an engineering program. Listen, it's very incompatible. This is logically incompatible with common sense, because if the ministry is responsible to build the capacity of the university, and now you're telling us we don't have the capacity to run an engineering program, and now you want to turn GTTI to a university of science and technology, I think the viewers can drive to the conclusion. So as we said, these were some demands that were as a result of our resolution at our Congress, and we'll ensure that we will not fail our members.
When exactly the next semester is supposed to start?
Well, I am yet to see the
mid of September.
Yeah.
So relatively, we have about 2-3 weeks to go, maybe before then. Today's on the 24th of August, so maybe a mid of September, probably, as the authorities might be watching. They might start, doing something and call you on board to discuss. Like I said, we wish we had enough time to discuss on some of the other points that are also part of their demands, but we just looked at few. But of course, you can see the reactions, and they have made it clear that their position is not changing anytime soon, as and until when their demands are met. And we hope that we wouldn't get to that level for them to go back to the strike. But Dr. Ensa Toure, Vice President of the University of the Gambia Faculty and Staff Association of the Gambia, thank you very much for coming, sir. And Zeron Jai, who is the Secretary General, equally, thank you for coming, and we will hope to get you back hopefully before then, so we can see what is the latest development or update, if there's any, to discuss more on these matters, because they are very, very important. Thank you very much for your time. We should have talk about politics or UDP. I don't know, because Nyawuru should have been here. UDP is 25 years old, so we should have talked about that. But I think we would probably do that tomorrow, if he's not around. Oh, okay, then you stick around. We're gonna understand he's here. So Nyawuru is never boring when he's here. So we're gonna talk about UDP. Happy anniversary, by the way. So stick around. We just said. Bring another story quickly, and then get to that as we do. But thank you very much to our university guys. We're here and from development. So let's bring our next. Training was funded by the Friedrich Ebert Stinkform Office of Peace and Security in Sub-Saharan Africa in collaboration with My Media, and our Jai has more details of that in this report.
The training is geared towards educating practicing journalists in election reporting while promoting peace building, especially in the forthcoming December presidential election. Speaking during the opening of the media training on peaceful and democratic election, Cherno Jallo, a veteran journalist, said the training is timely.
Every 5 years, we observe a political ritual in our body politics, elections. And the part played by you, us, the media, we have a crucial role to play. We have a constitutional role to play. And as watchdog, we also are the guardian of the Constitution. And the Constitution mandated us to hold government and all office holders responsible and accountable to the Gambian people.
Mohamed M.S. Ba, Vice President of the Gambia Press Union, said journalists play a vital role in information dissemination, especially during pre- and post-elections.
Your role is very crucial in elections. It is to inform the public on election information which comes from the electoral management body, to be precise, IEC, and also some of the relevant laws that people should know. This is the role of the media. It is also important to educate them on the people who want to get their votes, get the votes of the masses. Who are those people? What is the agenda they have for the people? And then put them to task. How are they going to govern them? How do they intend to govern the people? Do they have a clearly defined agenda which is realistic, which is not just empty promises?
Justice Hadi Roche, a representative from the Justice Department, highlighted the importance of the media in maintaining peace during election time.
There are some other practical steps the media can take to discharge their peace-building role and ensure peaceful elections, and these include strengthening the professional capacity of journalists and reporters must be fluent in their language of choice. Otherwise, their message might not be properly understood. Frequently, we see grammatical errors which result in misunderstanding. Otherwise, their message might not be properly understood. If the language used is not clear or correct, it can be misinterpreted to trigger conflict. Avoiding inflammatory, divisive, culturally insensitive and dehumanizing language when reporting. Do not use language that could trigger or escalate conflict. Avoid placing sensationalism over depth and content. It is always worth imagining that you are reporting about yourself or someone you care about. By doing that, you are bound to be more careful and sensitive in the way you report.
The training organized by Friedrich Ebert Stiftung alongside My Media is geared towards equipping journalists in peace building during elections. It will help journalists not only to report the news but to make a positive impact in society during these crucial times. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Hawan Jai.
So we talk about elections, so it's always that journalists are involved, and training journalists in peaceful elections is very, very fundamental, because journalists or the media has a very, 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 I have to repeat, very important role to play as always in national development, especially in election time. So it's a good move, and we hope this will happen more as we get into the election, as we get close to the elections in December. And if you talk about election, you talk about political parties. And of course, we want to talk about one of the main political parties in the country, that is the United Democratic Party, the UDP. And so as always, my very good friend is always here to talk about the party, because the party is 25 years old since its formation in 1996. So, and we want to look back, of course, what are some of the developments, how the journey, if you like, have looked like for the Yellow Party from its inception to date, as they prepare and get into another election in 2021. And as always, I'm very much happy as ever to welcome Nyawuru Koma of the United Democratic Party, who is the youth president of the party in KMC. Nyawuru Koma, the UDP mooy suñu gan tey ci wàllu li nga xamante ni ko waxtaane kon ni ñu koy waxee saa su ne ñu ngi ci géopolitique te ñu am mbégte nag tey war a wax ci benn parti bi nga xam ne bokk na ci parti yu gën a mag, bu fekkee sax nekkut bu gën a mag ci réew mi jamono ji, mooy UDP. am nañ ñaari fukki at ak juróom bu parti bi taxaw ba léegi. Ci loolu rek nañ fas yéene waxtaan gannaaw bu ñu leen of course delloo njukkal ci taxawaay bi nga xamante taxaw nañ ko ci réew mi, ñu am mbégte dalal Nyawuru Koma. Nyawuru, ñu nuyuwaat la bu baax a baax, wax la welcome back, good to have you back again, but especially today bés bi nga xam ne is your day, so tey moom duñ fi nekk di wax ni dem ak ñëw, tey bésam la, so it's gonna about him ni mu buggee rek te noonu lañ koo defee. So Nyawuru, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Kante. maa ngi gërëm ñëpp ñuy seetaan, especially ñu nekk home and diaspora yëpp, di leen jaajëfal, di leen wax ne another edition of Good Morning Africa. Di rafetal liggéey caméraman yi ak technicien yi nekk di gannaaw programme bi, saa yu nekk ñoo dee tax adduna bi duñu gis duñu dégga. maa ngi leen a jaajëfal di leen wax ne gàcce gaalaama, they are the unsung heroes of this programme. su fa jógee tamit maa ngi jaajëfal gaay UDP yëpp ñu nekk fii, seen askan bi, seen njaboot yi, di leen jaajëfal, di leen wax ne happy 25 year anniversary, happy silver jubilee anniversary. li moo tënka mooy ne wax nga ko, te suma bés la, te ñun suñ bés yaaga na ñoo am bés
waaye tey bés boo xam ne la ngeen gis affaire yi moom tey yëpp a yeloo
waaw xanaa gisuloo ma man soo boppam loxo bi nañ ko wone si suuf
waaw yëpp
ba si kaw daal gars yi xam ne tey
affaire yëpp yeloo la programme bi tey programme yeloo la
waaw yeloo dee la tey so basically rafetlu nañ seen invitation bi tey saa yu nekk yéen a ngi def seen liggéey regardless of
gis nga gars yi nuñ ko defee
waaw caméraman bi booy yaara fee la maan bii da nga koo xoolal da nga koo amplify rek ngeen koo tasaare si àdduna bi rek ñu xam ne tey moom baana yeeg montor yeeg man suma loxo bi sax su mu noon a nekk yeloo ma def ni buloo be ñoo kono sonno mool be ñoo kono Cairo Sabati Banko ka UDP Mansakunda sort of 4 December His Excellency the next President of the Republic lawyer ANM Ousainou Darboe ala baraka.
All right, so it can be lii kay du mënutoon ñàkk xam nga yaay ne lu mënta ñàkk foog mu am moo tax ñu programme bi mënutoon jeex te lii amul so it's 25 years so it's not 25 days it's not 25 weeks it's not 25 months we are talking about years. It has been a long journey, it has been rough and tough, you know, of course there has been highs and lows, but I don't know if you would take us back maybe briefly about the beginning of the party, the journey and all that, just for time we want to focus on the recent development, but just briefly UDP itself party.
Basically, thank you, Amadou, to get you back some years back to the memory lane. The United Democratic Party is the party of the people, in the sense that it came up in 1996. Precisely, it was launched officially on the 24th August 1996. But before 24th August 1996, when the military junta came in 1994, they disbanded all political parties that were existing in those days. So with the advent of lifting of the ban, but not still lifting ban on the former political parties, the members of those political parties, namely and in chief, the PPP, the NCP and the GPP leaders came together. And the members of those parties came together to form a political party called the United Democratic Party. And they chose a human rights lawyer in the name of lawyer ANM Ousainou Darboe to be the party leader and the secretary general. And like you said, during the 25-year sojourn, there have been highs and lows. But at the end of the day, the most important issue is the party was able to surmount all those obstacles and effect and played a great role to effect change in 2016 presidential elections. Along the line, we've been met with some human rights violation out.
Before we get to that, before we get to some of these things, maybe the highs and lows, we will talk about it, of course. But then, if you, as a UDP member, now you, of course, you are heading the youth of the party within KMC, but of course you are a prominent member of the United Democratic Party. If you look back from 1996 to date, do you feel excited? Do you feel happy that UDP have played an integral part in getting the country to where it is in terms of democracy, in terms of the things, the objective of forming the party? How do you feel as a member of the Yellow Party?
Thank you so much, Amadou. Yes, obviously, when you look back at the trail of the United Democratic Party for the last 24 years, 25 years, you don't only get excited, you get committed, you get encouraged, you still have hope that yes, better things lies ahead. At the end of the tunnel there shall be light, and solely UDP shall usher in that light. When you look at the party, and as a youth, you remember very well, when you look at the history of the late Singul Nyasis, the Solo Sandengs, and the Femi Peters, they all started the political party as very vibrant and dynamic youth. And they also believe in the principles of the UDP, that the United Democratic Party is bent on inculcating and propagating the ideals of free society, a democratic society, wherein everybody will be a democratic person. And by that, the rule of law should be order of the day, not otherwise. We frown and son at dictatorship. self-perpetuation, tyranny, and human rights violations. So those are cornerstone principles that the UDP has never let go, and they have been embedded in anybody who is going to be an important or a militant of that political party.
Okay.
That Gambia comes first. That wherever a UDP guy sees an injustice, you will tackle it, because there is a very popular saying, an injustice anywhere should be a threat to justice everywhere.
Yes, certainly.
So shall it be, and that is what the UDP is built on.
All right. Now let's get to some of the things. I know I want us to start with the challenges, because in every journey there's a challenge along the line. You know, I want us to end with the juicy things, so that we can end up this on a very high note, getting into December, because I know, as ever, you believe that December is for UDP, and that will be the moment when the right, of course, the rightful Honorable Hussein Dabo will get to State House, as you have been claiming with and working for. Now, if you look back, I know there have been numerous challenges, like you said, but which has those ones that you look back and say this has been maybe some of the most deterring moments of the party, probably, that have made it difficult for you not to get to the main objective? Because one may argue that in every situation, in every way, a political party is formed based on an objective of, getting to the main ultimate objective, that is to lead the country or be the president, and that's yet to be achieved. Somehow, yes, a member of the party is currently leading, or former member of the party, I should say, but remind us some of the major or some of the main challenges that the party have faced over the past 25 years.
Thank you, Amadou. If I want to delve into that, will take another 1 hour.
Yeah, not everything.
Precisely,
just sum it up.
To just summarize what you said. There are a sequel of events that cannot go unnoticed in the development and in the challenges of the United Democratic Party. First, to start with the selection of the party secretary general and the flag bearer. Because in those days, we know that it was a military junta. So even people who were approached and they were like technocrats, some of them have very impressive CVs. But nobody wanted at that time to sacrifice his time, his position, or his life to come and bail the Gambia out. So kudos to His Excellency for accepting, Hussein Dabo for accepting to be chosen by people during that time moment of a military junta, where everybody was not sure of what will come tomorrow, the uncertainty.
Everybody was at the back seat.
Everybody was at the back seat. So that was the time he served this country. That was the time when the country needs him most, and he didn't disappoint. So we're saying to him, thank you, Honorable. That was a gallant move, and we'll always remember you in our thoughts, in whatever we do. Secondly, after the launching of the political party, because of the nature of a military junta, we've seen that the political atmosphere was not conducive. There were intimidations, harassments, and illegal detentions and arrests and disappearances of key figures of the United Democratic, just to deter the political dispensation during the election year, that was 1996. But at that particular point in time, if the party can be able to amass more than 35.46% of the votes, that speak volume of a political party that was newly formed under the atmosphere of a dictator and a military junta. But after that election, to the subsequent election, everybody know what happened to this. What happened in this country, from the Chamoy Bridge issue, the fast Njagachoy standoff, the military clash with the UDP at the Denton Bridge, the arbitrary arresting of key prominent UDP members during election days, during campaign periods, and the diversion of our political itinerary, even it is approved by the IEC that certain places should be a UDP area for a particular day on a meeting date, you will be denied access because of directives from the executive arm of the government. That were issues. We don't have equal
playing ground,
level playing field, especially when it comes to access to media, because in those days there are not many mediums like now. You had only the GRTS, the Gambia Radio and Television Services. And they were 100% managed by the government. Nobody had access in those first two elections. Even
they are monopolized.
It was monopolized. It was a propaganda tool for the incumbent and his APRC political party. So UDP survived through thick and thin in the dispensation of our newfound democracy.
Until the main one in 2016.
Until the main one in 2016. And even in the main one in the 2016, the UDP happened to be the primary agitator. That is the primary game player that changed the game.
Yeah.
With the advent of the electoral reform, not only UDP agreed, but many political parties came together to agree to come out on a specific date to make sure that there is electoral reform. And those youths take the mantle on themselves, even informing the National Executive of the United Democratic Party as their civic right to come out and denounce in the manner in which elections are done in this country, that they demand for electoral reform. It was unfortunate that 14th day of April, when those youths came out and the other political parties stayed back, the United Democratic Party faithfuls, including Solo Sandeng, Anko, Nogo Njai, Fatoumata Jawara, and the list goes on, came out to show their franchise and their civic right of peacefully converging and making sure the government hears what they want, that they wanted electoral reform. And the rest is history. Posterity shall judge that event. Somewhere, all of them were arrested. They were met with the most gruesome human rights violations in this country. Women were raped, people were tortured, some were injured, and some lost their life. Later on, even after the acquitting and the discharging of some of the members, the summary are dying like that. The last victim is Honorable Fake Bakoli, who just died some weeks ago, who was another victim of that gruesome event. Because there is a subsequent follow-up after the 14th April, the arrest of the party leader of the United Democratic Party and the senior members of its executive also happened when they demanded for the dead body of Solo Sandeng, Habas Corpus, dead or alive. We want to see the dead body of Solo Sandeng or the body of Solo Sandeng alive, because that is our right. And if he dies, we want to give him a befitting burial. That is the platform which agitated every democratic Gambian to know that there is time for change in this country. And that electoral reform that they call for, the spot counting and in the manner in which elections were controlled, brought in the change that we all calling for. So kudos to the Gambian people, but especially to those youths of the United Democratic Party and its executive standing for the country. As usual and as always, that is what they do. Gallant people, you live for nothing but die for something.
Die for something, indeed. And of course, this have shown that some of the great sacrifices the people that you have mentioned have did for this country, and United Democratic Party under the leadership of Lawyer Usendam continue to do in the country, like you said. So eventually in 2016, I think you agree you would agree with me that, I mean, the battle was won. Democracy, a new dispensation was born. But these are probably some of the most exciting moments of the party. But apart from that, what else would you also look back and you feel you can rejoice as a party, during the past 25 years? Of course, like I said, you have just mentioned some of the challenges, the sacrifice, the hardships we went through. But it's also important we look back and say, yeah, these were very glorious moments for the United Democratic Party.
The most important ones are during those 25 years. In the manner in which funds are raised and which people sacrifice, the way people sacrifice, with all those conditions, to go through the length and the breadth of this country in the most remote place. At times, they will be denied crossing by the authorities because they just want to derail their confidence. What they hope to achieve for this country, that has never derailed the United Democratic Party. That zeal, that commitment, that endurance, that persistence, that patience is what I admire about those people, especially during those trying times.
I was going to ask.
And secondly, after all that, after the victory in the 2016 presidential election, that all the Gambians were yearning for, we cannot forget one thing. For the first time, the party went as a political party on its own and was able to have 31 National Assembly members in the National Assembly.
Yeah.
That was another milestone.
Which was historic.
Which was very historic for the first time that an opposition party in a country has won more than 50% of the available sitting seats at the parliament is something that should be alluded to, and the Gambian people, especially the UDP militants, should be given the credit because they believe in the principles of the political party and their candidate, and that's why they were voted in office.
Yeah.
So these are one of the issues we cannot forget. The stigma that was attached to being a member of the UDP in the last 25 years.
Yeah, I probably need to ask this one along.
We cannot forget about that.
As you probably respond.
Some people, the problems we are faced, some people will not even be wanting to have to do business with you, even when you want a political bureau in those days.
Yes,
just to make the yellow flag fly over somebody's building.
It's a problem.
It is a problem.
Now, why do you think, I mean, with all this, you're talking the stigma, the challenges, the hardship, you look at UDP, still remain as one of the main political party in this country. What's the sticking point?
The sticking point.
What is the bond?
The bond.
Yes.
The bond. Thank you. The thing that drives people is the truth and the hope for a better Gambia. Love for country more than an individual. Fighting for what is just, even under an atmosphere of intimidation, harassment, and stigma. That is the truth. That is factually reporting what happened in this country. That the UDP is for the Gambia. The UDP stands on 3 principles of human rights, peace, justice, and development. Because there can never be a lasting peace without social justice, and there cannot be no development without social justice. These are the principles that the UDP can never compromise for anybody, anytime, anywhere.
Would you look around?
This is what is the truth. The oldest political party. Come with APRC, you cannot determine who is older. Maybe by dates, but they were all launched in the same year.
Yeah.
So the oldest political party in the country, the biggest political party in the country, didn't crumble. We didn't have any means or any access to any government fund. Some political parties are waiting and dying only after 2-3 years.
Yeah,
but surviving a 25-year-old terrain with all the hardships, with all the obstacles that you surmount, it is only the truth, vigilance, persistence, and love for country, commitment and loyalty that can get somebody past through those hurdles. And that is what is in the UDP. It is all one for all for one. Regardless of what, if it is in the interest of the country, the UDP will stand by that.
Yeah, would you look around comparing to other political parties and say some of the things that you have just mentioned, the principles and the things that you do, is the difference between UDP and other political parties?
We don't have competition when it comes to that, everybody knows. Because the other political party that can say that they are in power, they cannot have anything to showcase when it comes to our struggle.
Yeah.
The APRC was in power, they were incumbent, they were enjoying all the facilities.
Yeah, absolutely.
They don't have issues. The UDP were the main opposition. In those days, whatever happens in this country, they will tell you UDP, we better get up and address this issue. Because it's the only vibrant, functional and structured opposition political party in this country. That is a hard fact. If anybody likes it, that is the truth. If you don't like it, that is the truth. And nobody, even history, cannot deny UDP of its achievement. What it has achieved, and through the sweat and blood of martyrs who died for love, for country, and change that they will effect in people's eye. And after they effected that change, and that change, we went along the line.
Yeah.
They wanted to tent it.
You see, I was...
No, we discussed it. The ideals and the principles of the United Democrat. We don't have friends. You know who is our friend? The only person who wants to be just.
I wanted to
ask. The only person who wants to love this country. The only person who wants to protect the sovereignty of this country at the interest of the country. That person is our friend. Anybody who goes otherwise against those principles, you cannot be a friend. If you take us as an enemy, we don't take you as an enemy. But we just take you as a competition.
Okay.
A competitor, a very healthy one that we have on the ground, because that is what we've treated all political parties.
Now, because we are remembering the party and the journeys, and of course you're talking about 2016. What you just talked about, everybody know what you meant. But then 2016, here's somebody picked from your party, UDP, in the name of Adama Barrow at the time, you know, he came as a coalition candidate, and eventually he got elected, you know, as a coalition candidate. But of course, he was from the UDP. Would you look back at this moment? You look at in 2016 how the jubilations were like in the Carver Avenue way, heading to the residence of the former Vice President Ousainou Darboe. Would you look back and say, okay, this was also a moment which the party can look back and say, yes, you break the barriers and make it happen. And despite what happened, we'll get to that maybe, but that moment.
Amadou, but I said that here. I said,
yeah,
it is like breaking through the ice. We did that. We break through the ice. At the end of the day, it was a coalition government.
Yeah, I know.
But in any coalition government, there are key players.
Yeah.
There are mediocre players. There are non-even players who are just there because of a political party.
Yeah.
Because a political party doesn't. I usually say it here, and some people keep being offended by that. Some are briefcase political parties.
You don't get to the
a political party without a structure where a husband and a wife are the party leader and the deputy party leader. You don't call that a serious
but you don't get to this issue. We are here to talk about UDP.
Now what we're talking about, I'm talking about the UDP, how UDP is.
Yes.
And with all that, I want to make something very clear here. That the people who have no policies, they have no agenda, should not bring that forth to our politics. UDP from 1996 to date have been propagating and promoting only one thing: all-inclusiveness regardless of tribal affiliation.
Yeah.
UDP is a political party. When it was formed in 1996, the party Secretary General, Ousainou Darboe, obviously is a Mandinka. The Deputy Party Secretary General, first is Yaya Jallow, who happens to be the Deputy Party Secretary General until 2016. When his health condition cannot allow him to continue as the Deputy Secretary, then Adiam Seka was set in as the Deputy Party Secretary. The likes of Femi Peters, the likes of Singul Nyasi, were the people who formed this political party. Jallo, Karamo Kaba Sane.
You're just talking about the diversity in the party.
I'm talking about the diversity of the political party. You know why we're talking about this today? Because it is our silver jubilee. Contrary to what people are saying and what people are using as a political gaining point, is bringing divisive politics and tribal politics in this country won't work. The Gambian Fulas and the Gambian Mandinkas and the Gambian Manjakos and Sanahulis are all one.
No, the beauty
so let us think of the beauty of this country as a rainbow nation.
Absolutely, yes.
This is a rainbow nation. Regardless of our tribal affiliations or our religious affiliation or our political affiliation, it's only one Gambia we have in this country. So this is why I'm also talking about this. Because these are things that they associate with the UDP and they are not founded. They are just hypocritical. They are just something that they always speculate about, and they know it is not true.
And I want us to, I know it's good that you clear some of these things, but I want us to be more, ambience.
No, the ambience today, I will bring that up. You see my color, it's yellow. So this vibrant yellow color is one of the most captivating colors. And look at the color of the sun. It's yellow. Even the background you have here, they will talk about it. It's yellow. Good morning, Africa. Any fruit, especially the mango fruit, the orange fruit, or any productive one, before it gets better for every human consumption, the color will change yellow. So yellow is
this
yellow.
Background has nothing to do with yellow or UDP. This background have been here for because it's red, yellow, black. It's mixed up. You have blue here, you have green, you have everything. So
even the red color behind you, but the color that is more vibrant. Look at the color. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. You are 2016. You see, you have somebody, like I said, from your political party. But, I don't know. Now, when that happened, change happened 2016, of course, from the inception of the party, I know we'll conclude with that. We talk about the leader of the party, the sacrifice, Mom Bimdef, and he attempted several times to lead the country, Nekagut. But, when Barrow came in, he was, of course, part of the system, started as a minister, foreign affairs minister. He got to the vice president presidency, but eventually issues happened. So how would you ñu bari ñu attribute to UDP again as an opposition party against ñu fi nekk somebody ki nga xamante ne when he came up you own up Barrow is our Barrow.
Yes.
You know, and everybody said, okay, UDP now the coalition is more or less a UDP government. You have most of the ministries given to UDP, but all of a sudden, loolu yëpp mu change ci diggante bi. Here we are going to an election again. UDP want to go and contest pour jëlaat réew mi against somebody ki nga xamante ni ci yéen la bokkoon ñëw through coalition, but UDP played a pivotal role in getting that victory in 2016. Ndax nga mun a balance these situations to us to the level we are as we head to December?
Okay, thank you very much. Amal, that was very important. The question is important.
Yeah.
Barrow was our Barrow.
Yeah.
You know why we said that? We all own up, including any political party that was part of the coalition. What we meant by that is simply we ushered in Barrow. We voted in for Barrow. So at the end of the day, Barrow is everybody's Barrow. Gambians voted for change through Barrow. So he is our Barrow. That is the simple common sense it meant. It doesn't mean if Barrow left the ideals and the principles that brought him to office, that the UDP should blindly follow Barrow. That is not UDP. We are not sycophants. The party is not built on sycophancy or militancy or extremism. It is built on ideals, policies, and programs for the betterment of the country. That suits the country best. So if Barrow deviates from the principles that brought him to office and he concentrates on something else that didn't bring him to office, the UDP will not blindly follow him. This is the issue. He was everybody's Barrow. Everybody voted for him here. The majority voted for Barrow. That's why he's our Barrow. Regardless of whether you support him or not, you voted him for or not, he is the president of the republic. When he assumed office, he assumed executive responsibilities and powers. And saying that the UDP will have a majority of the cabinet seats, I think that is a misinterpretation. And even it happens like that, they deserved it. Because if you look at the percentage of the vote, if a political party that can amass 35% of the vote in 1996, and at its lowest 26%, its lowest in its presidential election cycle, 26%. If there is to be an alliance in that country, if the cabinet is to be formulated anywhere in the world, the majority position should go to the biggest political party. That is common sense. That is multi-party democracy. That is coalition principle cardinal. Secondly, I will come to that. When you look at the ministries, 3 were given to UDP. Other political parties had 2. Nobody complained. Only 1. And all those 3 ministries, they performed extremely well. For the finance ministry, we know that the guy who was there performed extremely well, and he was commended by the president himself.
Well, fine.
The foreign affairs minister, our party leader
I just
also.
came, it's good that you respond. Nama bëgg rek ñu leeral some issue, but not to go in details. Ministry bi lii la def ak yooyu time amut. Nañ laal rek ñu lefin. Just finally.
Ndeysaan time dina am.
Waaw
UDP la tey suñu bés la nga ne.
Waaw non
dem maa bàyyi xam nga yow yaa ngi wax. yow yaa ngi contradict sa bopp nga ne. dem maa bàyyi ma wax li ma bëgg a wax.
te loolu nga def loolu nga andi.
waaye bu ma wax ne. Lolo is very important.
No, it is. But
because you asked that
you see,
question.
you are giving almost 1 hour. Denga phone Doragulo. You see the excitement.
The excitement is because it's a yellow day.
No, Lola. So Lola, so legi nañ def ndank rek ñu wrap up. Legi from here is now 2016 passé na lu xew na ñu xam nañ duñ ci dugga sax di waxati ak yoyu. UDP seen position leer na 2021 December again you already affaire yi you know pare nañ pour ngeen jëli affaire yi. Legi pour finally again pour mu leer rek Lawyer Darboe has kenn du laajte his sacrifice his position his credibility lu mu taxaw UDP ak Gambia léegi to some he have tried several times as the candidate for the party succeeded to be president pour win just yow nga indiwaat ñu what is that thing that UDP still believe and gëm ne he is the right person pour mun a lead party bi to get that victory he deserved, the party deserved, comme ni ngeen ko gisee, you know, especially December buy ñëw, you still maintaining as your flag bearer, you know. Pour foofu mu leer rek ñu.
That is what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I will say it again, dinaa ko waxaat. Ousainou Darboe has never changed. Those principles that made all those political parties to select him in '96 and choose him as the flag bearer, he has even gone beyond expectation. He has contributed his time, his wealth, his sweat, his blood to the cause. And you said three things here that is more important. Nobody will question his sacrifice, his credibility, his competence. I think these are the things that we require in a modern leader in our country, especially a newfound democracy. Trying 10, 15 times doesn't matter. Let me tell you let me explain a brief story. Even our prophets, behold, when they came, they had many obstacles. Some tried preaching over 30, 50 years, 25 years, 15 years before the people can come to the deen. Our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he preached for how many years? Before people will embrace Islam. That is not a requirement. That is not a requisite for anybody to judge anyone that somebody has tried so long. He didn't come through. That doesn't mean that he doesn't deserve it. In politics, there is one thing that will always happen. The most deserving, the most credible, and the most trustworthy are normally not people who will be winning. But given the fact of the matter that people have that conception, about politics, that all politicians are the same, let us remember one thing. There was no great nation or any great nation that was built in this world was built by politicians, great politicians, who have foresight, vision, and love for country. If other politicians are wayward, those are those politicians. They have their profile. But don't profile Usain Dabo under that category. You've not given him the chance. But the Gambia is ready to give him the chance come December 4, 2021. And we will make sure the Gambia will always Gambia will even regret why they've not given him authority before.
Finally,
say, had we known,
finally,
he would have been president well before
on that point, finally, like, just under 1 minute, is it Silver Jubilee for UDP in an election year, 2021? That will be just few months after December, because we are in August, then October, September, October, November, you have December elections.
December will be icing on the cake.
Now, after 25 years of struggle, sacrifice, and his attempt to get the presidency, it never happened. So would you define December 4, 2021 for UDP as a make or break for the party to get to a state house? Finally.
Finally, no, I will not say make or break. The UDP is a party that is not meant for one day or day. It is there for 25 years. It will be here for posterity. It is not a party that is built on only observing presidential election or parliamentary election. No, UDP is more structured than that. UDP has more vision than that. It is not a one-time presidency seeking political party that will fade out after a political discourse. After a presidential or a parliamentary election, UDP is here to stay. If anybody is thinking otherwise, change your status quo. UDP is not here for only 2021 presidential election. UDP is here to stay, and we were not formulated just to be here. That's why we serve 25, and we will be here till posterity. Secondly, the party leader of the United Democratic Party has gone through tests, and he has passed with distinction.
And that is? And
with recognition.
What is the
He has served in the Foreign Affairs Ministry. He graduated with Division 1. He went to the Vice Presidency. He also left that position with a distinction. So when he comes a president, obviously all the bongums that people are talking about, especially those people who are spewing garbage about him, will have no other choice but just to zip up, because UDP is the party.
Thank you.
Yellow is the color.
Thank you.
25th anniversary. We have a sequel of events. Ranging from, we'll launch our party manifesto during this 2-3 day celebration from today to Friday. We'll be organizing tree planting exercises across the country. Babala Neto, we've signed that it's a 10,000 project of trees. We'll start planting all over the country, the Neto tree. And then also we'll have the radio programs talking about the UDP, its struggle for the past 25 years. We'll have a Heroes Day for the martyrs, people who died in the cause of the United Democratic Party, people who were tortured, people who were met with all the gruesome cruelties and the human rights violations. That's a special day for that. People also will be certified. They will be given certificates for the sacrifices they did for country and the United Democratic Party.
There are people who were part of the struggle, maybe they are no more in the party.
They will be given...
In the NP. Would you consider inviting them
they will,
to be
their
part of the
families
rejoice?
will be invited.
How about that?
And they will be given awards also. What they call it also, post-mortos or post-mortos? Yes, postmortem achievement awards for people who died.
Okay.
Yes, they will be given that, the Heroes Award, the Martyrs Award, and they will have a special day for the Martyrs when only their issues will be discussed. There's only one political party that can have that type of program and a sequel of events, and that is the United Democratic Party.
Thank you.
It's the past, it will be the present, and it surely will be the future.
Once again,
whether you like it or not, during all our 3 cycles, the past, the present, and the future, the UDP is the key player. They are the game changers.
Yeah, thank you. Once again, happy anniversary, and thank you for coming. You get to see him before he leaves. Wow.
I have to stand up and you take me seriously.
Yeah, sure. No, boy,
boy, this is my day. The yellow have to come out. This is our anthem.
We got to go. Take me. No, bulem go fale. Go man dema.
Yeah? Take me up, man. It's yellow day, man.
Oh, okay.
You don't want to take me up, camera, man.
Wow. Jay. Buy whiskey. Happy birthday, you them.
Now sit down again. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Don't tell me. See what's a man jelma.
No, lady.
You continue sawabi. Momu jelma. Man la ñoo wish birthday di.
No, du yow sa birthday bi jeex na am na keneen.
Bi suñ birthday.
Waaw am na keneen wish na la birthday ba pare.
No, wish ñu birthday bu at.
Waaw happy
birthday to the United Democratic Party. Wish us.
Happy birthday to the United Democratic Party.
Thank you.
Wish you many, many happy returns.
Thank you. In your borrow voice.
Let me take this opportunity and wish Jay also happy birthday. So how ma won affaire nakala I would have been na ko don gëna def mu gëna neex, but and guy xam nañ nakala. It's your day and happy birthday. Have fun. Yalla bes bi mu ñëwaat ci jàmm. You have a lot of greatness and xam naa ne kontaan na moom tamit. I know you're really happy today, so thank you very much. This is all how much we got time for today. It was good that we wouldn't have in the program without having Nyauru here to talk about the United Democratic Party. So the struggle continues. Gambia is for everybody, for the Gambia, our homeland, and that's why till we meet tomorrow again for the midweek edition of the program. Thank you very much wherever you might have been watching around the world. Until we meet again, do have a very, very pleasant day and bye for now.
Aluta continua Victoria accepted.